With the questionable decisions we see today, it's worth going over the times in which the judges fumbled it on the biggest stage, a title fight. Mind you, the UFC's got a pretty good track record with this. It doesn't happen nearly as often as boxing, but it's still a mistake regardless. However, you can't mention GOAT contenders getting away with robbery without talking about George St. Pierre and Johnny Hendricks. This time it's not just the rematch that Johnny Hendricks was robbed of, it was the belt.
Does anybody here think that Johnny Hendricks didn't win the fight?
Let's look at the first round. Both go 1-for-1 with the takedowns, but Hendricks manages to catch GSP twice on the way in and rains down hard elbows that cut George's face.
These are vicious elbow shots.
There's no argument for GSP round 2. He gets wobbled badly with an uppercut and flurried to a point where there is visible bruising to his face. The rest of the round they trade shots, but Hendricks definitely has the bigger moments. Round 3 is where we see George come into his own with his striking at range, and he gets the better of Johnny in exchanges. Although Hendricks finds a takedown, it doesn't lead to much, so third round goes to GSP. Round 4 was all Hendricks. Once GSP slipped, Johnny was able to cut him up with his ground and pound, and then pour it on him when they stood up. The 5th round was pretty even with some good shots from both parties, but it's the 2 takedowns that swing it in favour of GSP. Now that's 3 rounds to 2, with Johnny clearly doing more damage and St. Pierre winning his 2 rounds by fine margins. It's a robbery. They should have given the belt to Hendricks. And I know a lot of people are going to point to the Johnny Hendricks steroid allegations, and I don't think that's fair. They're always quick to point out Big Rig's decline as soon as USADA came, but GSP also left when USADA came. And if we look before that, he had massive traps and shoulders. And if we look after that, we'll see George's bubble gut in the Bisping fight. So was he definitely on roids as well? Maybe he had personal issues to tend to when he left the UFC. Maybe his stomach issues caused the gut to look like that. And maybe GSP's an amazing athlete who trains gymnastics, and that explains his great physique he still got in his 40s. On the other side, was it a lack of roids that caused Johnny Hendricks' decline, or was it a hit in morale after being robbed of one of the greatest achievements in his life?
It makes you wonder if you want to fight again.
Or an inability to compete with young fresh fighters on the come up while he himself is declining. Point is, there's no way to know for sure, so before we besmirch people's names because of subjective and speculative analysis, let's look at the fight itself until we have concrete proof. But for now, let's get back to Jon Jones and talk about how he pulled a heist on Reyes and robbed him not only of his belt, but also his rematch, and maybe even his career. Before Dominic Reyes was getting knocked out by jabs and was a light heavyweight highlight reel, he legitimately beat Jones. Round 1, he continually pushed the pace against Jones, landed clean punches, and even sat him down with a straight left to the body. Jon looked mildly better in the second round, but he still got outstruck and flurried to the point where he had to retreat consistently against the action. Round 3, we see Reyes continually stuff takedowns and get the better of Jon Jones in the clinch. He also consistently lands more and harder than Jon. In my opinion, round 4 is the contentious one, with Reyes flurrying Jones initially and still defending shots consistently. Jon does get a takedown, but Reyes gets right back up. However, Reyes seemed noticeably more tired, and although he had some good moments on the feet, Jon was more consistent and got the takedown, so round 4 goes to Jones by a margin. Round 5, Reyes starts with some good shots, but after the takedown, Jon is noticeably faster and more consistent, so we end the bout with it being 3-2 for Reyes. What makes this so egregious is the aftermath. If taking the belt wasn't bad enough, Jones robs Reyes of any potential rematch with his mythical move to heavyweight. Now put yourself in Dominic Reyes' shoes. You just beat the arguable GOAT of MMA and they didn't give you the nod or even the rematch, and they tell you to fight Jan Blachowicz for a vacant title that should have been yours to begin with. It's not crazy to assume that Reyes never really mentally recovered from this, and after what Jan did to him, I don't think he physically recovered either. It makes you sad and think about what could have been when you hear his corner talking to him coming into the 5th.
You got this. I love you, man. I love you. Okay, keep moving. You're there.
And I hate the notion of if you want to be the champ, you've got to beat the champ. It doesn't make sense. If someone wins 3 rounds out of 5, they beat the champ. The belt doesn't come with amenities like winning every close decision. These things need to be judged clearly and scored accordingly. Playing the rules and having a game plan that toes the line is real in every sport. My own name withstanding, these aren't gladiatorial battles where we give later rounds more value so we can accurately extrapolate who would win in a fight to the death. Again, if that's what you want out of a fight, then the rules should actively encourage that so both parties have a fair chance to prepare for it. Otherwise, a loss is a loss. There is no special consideration given to championship rounds in the rules. But of all the robberies, there wasn't one from a strictly judging-based perspective that was as bad as Lyoto Machida winning against Shogun at UFC 104. Round 1, Shogun outstruck him with leg kicks, dictated the pace of the fight, and controlled Machida against the fence. At first glance, round 2 seems like a blowout, with Lyoto being outstruck 3-1 by Hua. But the fight was a little more even than that, with Lyoto doing well in the first half of the round, but then Shogun getting the better of him in the second half. To be honest, they looked pretty close striking wise, but due to Shogun's clinch and control over Machida, I'd give the round to Shogun. Although it looks better for Maurizio on paper, in round 3 Lyoto starts to find his shots more consistently and flurries him at the end of the round, and those leg kicks that Shogun lands don't seem to be as immediately impactful, although we'll see those come to effect later on. But for now, this round goes to the Dragon. Round 4 was a blowout though. Machida only got one significant strike, and Shogun takes his time to find his shots and hit Machida. Shogun also takes the 5th with massive shots that bust up Machida. Okay, now the score is 4-1 for Shogun if you're giving Lyoto the benefit of the doubt, and that still isn't enough for the judges who give it a unanimous decision to the Dragon. Some of the worst judging I've ever seen, and it makes takes like these age like milk.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Machida era.
However, justice prevailed this time as we got an immediate rematch with Huan knocking Lyoto out and bringing an end to the infamous Machida era. Is there anything I've missed? Comment down below and tell me what you think of these decisions. I'm sure it will be a civil, structured and intellectual debate. Like and subscribe for more content like this and hit the bell icon so you know when I post, and with that I bid you adieu.